Welcome to the True Wealth Podcast, where we specialize in helping aspiring homeowners break into the real estate market and help investors create and build wealth through real estate. We will be sharing some of our best advice around real estate so you can purchase your first home or reduce taxes and achieve financial freedom. Your host, Seun Adeyemi, is a certified financial planner, mortgage professional. Financial freedom is possible when you have the right mindset, coaching, advice, and community. So, let's get real.
Welcome to the True Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Seun Adeyemi. Thank you for joining us today. Today, I've got a good friend on, Aaron Charles. Aaron and I've known Aaron for about probably just a little under 10 years now. Aaron is a developer. He's a realtor. He's one of those really great guys that loves to help people. And he's been doing a lot of work helping the Black community with helping people get into real estate. I remember when my wife and I were buying our first home back in, I think it was 2015, Aaron was very instrumental in helping us. We had a few challenges, and he's one of those guys that's extremely creative and really has a heart to help people. And so we sat down together, put together a plan, and he was able to execute on it. So I'm going to let him introduce himself. Aaron, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Sean. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good to see you again.
See you, man. It's.
I know you're out in the good weather, and we're back here. Kind of chilly today, but it's not.
Yeah, for most people who don't know, I've been shuttling between Florida and Canada. I'm trying to enjoy life now while I'm still young, not wait till retirement. So,
absolutely,
and it's part of what we're trying to teach people to do is if you do things the proper way, if you network, build solid relationships, work hard towards your goals, a lot is possible. And so we're going to talk about that. Eric, tell me a little bit about your story, how you got into real estate, what your passion is, and then we'll kind of talk about what you're doing right now.
My journey. My journey into real estate wasn't nothing too crazy. It was just, growing up in metro housing, growing up in at-risk neighborhoods, always asking questions like, why is it that, everyone who lives in this apartment building kind of looks the same? And you look across the street, you see all the houses, and everybody over there kind of looks the same. And then you kind of ask, then you kind of wonder, like, what's the issue here? So for me, I've always been a curious individual, always trying to get myself into things, always trying to learn new things. I really don't have any fear when it comes to anything that I put my mind to. I just go, me, Sean, I'm just Mr. Go, go, go. So for me, it's just like asking questions, people around me, how is it to make money? It's like 15, 16, asking how do I make money, what businesses I should open. And then one gentleman told me real estate. And that stuck in my mind since I was 16 years old. I just put it in the back of my head and then continued moving down life. And then, once I got my first job as a summer student at the TTC, I'm a summer student amongst adults who are working in a job that's been there for 15, 20 years. And I hear their conversations. They have cottages. They're doing this. They're doing that. So I ask questions like, how are you guys able to buy properties? They're like, well, if you have income and a job like this, the banks will give you a mortgage. So that opened up that seed that I planted when I was 15. And then I walked into the bank and I asked them, hey, well, I have this job. Can I get a mortgage? They're like, well, once you get permanent position, yes, then you can qualify. So I quickly got myself permanent position the next year, saved up $15,000 from my summer pay, went back to the bank. They qualified me for a $200,000 mortgage, and I had 5% down, and that's how I got into real estate. And then once I got into real estate, I really started to really fall in love with the fact, the power that it makes you feel. Like you feel liberated almost because you achieve something that a lot of people in your community are scared to try for themselves. And then, you just feel like you really accomplished something in terms of home ownership because you're on your way to building wealth. And then I was able to, move down the line while looking for other properties, find mentors along the way that really showed me the game and really showed me how to put real estate deals together. And then I was able to build a portfolio. And and I've been in real estate ever since. So I got into real estate in 2009, buying my first triplex, to now 2023, we have 5 real estate development projects on the go, a value of $223 million.
Wow.
It's just crazy how like one seed, one idea, then you execute it, then you go on the path of discovery, could lead you down a path where you never even imagined you'll reach. But it's just, I'm a very committed person, and I take the ups and I take the downs, and I take the triumphs and I take the bruises and the scratches. You got to take everything on the path to success. A lot of people, I find, they want the life that you just mentioned of kind of being semi-retired on the way to retirement. But there's a lot of work and sacrifice. When we met, I remember that was probably, one of the darkest moments of your life, where you were trying to figure out, how am I going to do this for my family? You were married, you had kids already, and you really wanted to make something happen for yourself. And then we just aligned ourselves, and we were able to make something happen. And now we're both wearing our company Go shirts. Life is a little bit different now, but it's just the power of coming together. People don't understand. You have to trust and believe in your brothers around you, and not be afraid to ask for help, no matter what position you're in. If there's true value there, help will be given. And if there's true intention there, help will also be given. It's just, we have to make sure that we come with genuine intentions of being of service and knowing what we're asking for, and putting in the work, right? The biggest pet peeve I have is, because I'll always sit down and give people the information, is not executing on the information, right? Without execution, there's no progress. So we must always make sure that we're just moving forward. And like I said before, from going to the bank, getting a $200,000 mortgage, by my first triplex, to working my way up to land development, I never knew at age 21 that was going to be my path, but I stuck with it long enough. And here I am 16, 17 years later, still doing the same thing. So that, I just answered that question on passion. For me, I don't like to use the word passionate, because it's an emotional word. I like to just be like things that pique my interest, right? And I take emotion out of business. I take emotion out of decisions, and I'm learning to do that every single day. So because you can't just run on passion all the time, right? You have to run with logic. You have to run with common sense. You gotta run with some intuition. You gotta purpose. You gotta fearlessness. There's a lot of different things that keep this engine moving versus passion. Because once the passion runs out, then the business is done, and we see that every single day, right? I lose my motivation many times. Sometimes in a week, sometimes in a month.
Sometimes in the same day.
Sometimes daily. But like you said, purpose and your why, and those things are what's going to keep you going for a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, right? So my why and my purpose is, now I've cracked the code for myself personally on real estate, knowing how to do that for myself. But now you don't really know how good you are at something until you create another you. So my job is to create as many people like myself, and then I'll know how much I've mastered my craft if I can create another Aaron Charles, and more Aaron Charles, and more Aaron Charles. And I think that's what a great teacher is, somebody that can replicate themselves through other people and giving them the tools to be successful. So yeah, for me, I'm just using real estate just as a tool, like what this platform is, a tool to inspire and motivate individuals, to let them know that anything is possible in life once you put your mind to it, and once you dedicate yourself. And then, yeah, that's just my life path right now.
I think one of the things that's inspiring about you is moving from working a regular 9-to-5 job to buy your first home, getting qualified for a $200,000 mortgage. That seems like nothing right now. And then moving to becoming a realtor, and then making the jump to become a developer. And I love the fact that you're very creative. And you and I both know one of the challenges most people face is getting to the real estate market is down payments. And I remember back then you had this program, REAP, Real Estate Assistant Program, that used creative ways to help people that you have the job, you have the work ethic, you have the credit, but you somehow either you're lacking the down payments or you don't have the means to get into the market, you're able to get creative and use that, use different strategies to help them get that down payment. Talk to me about a little bit about REAP, and then how that has transitioned to not just the development you work, mentioned 5 developments, but also how you help those who don't have the resources exactly to make that jump or to make that move into owning real estate.
Yeah, so back in 2011, I started a company called REAP, Real Estate Assistance Program. We don't run that anymore. We've transitioned into other things now that we have the master classes and different platforms that we use to kind of do the same thing, but rebranded. And that was just a program for a small window of time based on the opportunity available. But, you know, it was a good program. Might bring it back eventually. Well, yeah, so we were just helping people put the pieces together. Real estate's like a puzzle that's full of pieces, and you just have to put it together and be resourceful. So for me, it just, you know, I never looked at real estate linear. I always looked at it with a wide lens and try to grab as much resources as possible to make the deal happen. So real estate's really simple in the sense that it's really 3 things that make the transaction really happen, right? Credit, income, down payment. Once you have those 3 things in place, then you go to the bank and then you leverage and you get a mortgage, and then you're on your way. But a lot of people lack 1 or 2 things out of the 3 things that you need, which is income, credit, or capital. So we look to see where you're falling short, and then we try to bridge the gap there for you and try to bring on resources, right? Or put strategies in place to help to execute the goal of home ownership. Most people, they get discouraged because when they look at the things that they need, they don't have it. They freeze and they forget that they have to be resourceful. So if you don't have the credit, maybe you might have to do a joint venture situation where you bring on a partner with credit while you build your credit. But at the same time, instead of waiting to buy a home by yourself, it's better to go 50-50 with somebody. So at least you're in the market and you're getting to ride the upside potential of the equity while you're building your credit. Well, a lot of people look like through one lens and they just think of themselves, and then they limit themselves, right? And then and same thing with credit. Oh, I mentioned credit. So now income, same thing, bring a joint venture partner. And then down payment, same thing, bring a joint venture partner. But what we've been able to do is reach out to financial institutions, alternative lenders, and say, hey, look, this is the problem that we're seeing continuously coming up in our community. Let's put some programs in place that we can aid and support these individuals to give them a chance to get into the market a little bit faster. So there's a project that we're doing now. We're building 90 stacked townhouses in Brampton, where we're able to now bring on a finance partner to help individuals who have good credit. They have the income, but they don't have the down payment all today. We'll finance their down payment for them over a 5-year period while they get to enjoy the upside of the equity that's being built in the home at that time. Along the way, once the project is completed, if they're not able to close, finance company will close for them. They're going to a rent-to-own situation until they come up with a remainder down payment while still building equity in the home themselves. So it's just putting the pieces together. So everything is a case by case based on what your needs are. There's not a cookie cut solution for everybody, but we sit down there, we tailor it, and we customize what you need. And the goal is just to get access to real estate and get into real estate, and then let the real estate do what the real estate needs to do.
That's a really unique strategy. And let's break it down and use like a live example, for instance. So this project you're working on in Brampton, somebody has 5,000, 10,000, has a little bit of money, not a lot to be able to put towards their house. So let's say they saved a little bit. They've saved 10,000. In GTA real estate market, 10,000 is nothing in terms of being able to buy real estate. But at least they have something.
Right.
And so help me understand how it works. So they come to you, they come to this development, they put their deposit down. Let's say the project, give me an example of what the price ranges are for, let's say one stacked town. So let's say it's $500,000. Typically your minimum down payment is $25,000 for $500,000 purchase price. I mean, if it's more than $500,000, then it's 10% of the difference. Well, let's even use $500,000 for example. So they have $5,000. So technically they need $25,000, but they have $5,000, right? So now they need $20,000 difference to be able to really buy that property? How does the financing arrangement you work? So a lender lends them 20,000, and how does that work? Can you break it down for me?
Yeah, so it's very simple. First of all, it's
Okay.
pre-construction. So pre-construction has a life cycle of, let's say, 2 years when it comes to the low density. So the client will come in, they'll put their $10,000 down. The finance company will come in and give the developer the deposit needed. So in this case, it's 10%. So that now that the finance company put down the 10% for you, instead of you putting down 10% over 90 days or 180 days, now it's based on pretty much 2 years.
Right.
Right. So now you put your $10,000 down. Now you have 2 years to come up with your down payment. What we do with the finance company and the client is we sit down with them and they come up with a monthly payment plan to get to the down payment goal within the next 2 years. Right. So if you have to come up with $50,000, let's say $50,000, they'll divide up the $50,000 over a monthly period. And then you chip it down monthly. So by the time your property is finished and completed brand new, you saved up for your property over 2 years on a monthly basis versus having to do it all in one shot in a lump sum with 3 payments. Now, if year 2 comes and you didn't come up with all your down payment for whatever reason, the finance company will close on the property for you. And then you'll go into a rent-to-own situation where you'll occupy the unit, you'll pay rent to the finance company because they technically own it for you. And then once you continue to make your monthly payments towards your down payment, once you get your down payment secured, then they'll take you to the bank, get you the mortgage. You already have the down payment in place. Then they'll sign it over to you and you're on your way. The bonus is, let's say you bought that property for $500,000 in year 1 and you didn't finish your down payment saving for another 3 years, but that property went up to $700,000, you get to keep 100%
of the upside. Yeah.
So you're investing, saving, and you have a rent-to-own structure in place while building equity for yourself.
And one of the neat things about that is when the property is appreciated quite significantly by the time you're closing, it's possible to be able to get a mortgage at not the purchase price, but at the appraised value of the property. So that property you purchased at $500,000, let's even say $600,000 now. So it's worth $100,000 more. And if you have good income, you're able to get finance. And I'm a mortgage broker, so I kind of know this, and I'm sure you know this as well. Obviously, are you able to get a mortgage on $600,000? Let's even say it's 20% down. So now your mortgage is about $420,000, and so what ends up happening is the bank gives you more than you purchased the property for, which you can then use to pay off the difference that you had financed.
Exactly. So that's the strategy that we use for our clients as well. I always say to them, don't get caught up on the down payment and the saving portion and all that, because you and I both know, as being real estate investors, getting in is the hard part, getting access is the hard part. But once it gets started, the machine starts to roll on its own. Eventually, the property is going to assist you with coming up with the down payment, because you get to tap into the equity that's been created from the property to now assist you with the down payment. So if your property is worth $700,000 now, but you were saving based on $500,000, you now have $200,000 of equity that can now assist with your down payment, which will give you a better down payment and a better LTV. So you went straight to the cherry on top. I was giving it plain vanilla in the sense of, let's look at it from, you're buying it for $500,000, you're putting 10% down. This is what your payment structure is. But along the way, the property is going to start to assist you, which it's almost like you put nothing down on the property eventually. But the property is now paying you to buy it from you because the investment went up, right? So that's what a lot of people, they fail to understand, that real estate's a big leverage game, for the sense that, you have the equity working for you on the appreciation side, plus you have the equity working for you on the mortgage pay down side, and you're just there in the middle monitoring the transaction. So, the cherry on top is, yes, by the time you get to the end, there should be some built-in equity there for you where you're able to now leverage that toward your down payment. But I always want to run everything on a base case.
Conservatively.
So you can prepare and be conservative in case the market doesn't go up, how we're still going to see this thing through. But yeah, so that's what we've been doing. And that's one of the reasons why I got to real estate development, is because I said, you know what, the biggest problem that I'm seeing right now is our people in our community aren't getting access to real estate because, they don't have the inside with all the other developers and all the other communities are going in, swooping in. And, our community, we need a little bit more of hand-holding, a little bit more preparation, a little bit of strategy before they can actually make a sound decision. And when that decision then is made, the opportunity isn't there. So it's about bridging the gap for our community to kind of fast track them just to get access to real estate. Because once they get access to real estate, they'll get exposed to how real estate is actually, how real estate actually functions, right? But we're getting there. We have people that are taking the leap and putting their trust in us to guide them and show them, kind of like you guide. I remember when you told me when I first met you, like, Aaron, is this possible? This seems crazy. I'm like, trust me, this is what we got to do. And then it worked out for you, and you're able to go on and buy multiple properties and do what you got to do. So it's just about understanding, who the professionals are that you're working with, and trust that they know what you're doing. And these are things that I've done for myself and helped build myself to where I am. So I'm just repeating the rinse. I'm in rinse and repeat mode right now. Anyway.
Which is awesome, honestly, because like you said, sometimes it's just access. You mentioned the three things that people need to get into real estate. Usually it's credit, income, and down payments. And generally people have 2 of 3 or 1 of 3, and trying to figure out, okay, how can we create strategies to help you get all 3? And the down payment, I find you have a good job, if you've worked hard to build your credit, but you can't get into real estate. Having a program like this that helps you get into real estate. And I like the fact that you designed it in a way that even worst case scenario, by the time the property is closing, they're not able to still come up with the difference in down payments. The finance company buy purchasing properties for them. They do a rental own program where they own their down payment. They're still saving for it. So they still get to acquire the property, even if it takes them a bit longer than they want. Once they get into that property, and I always tell people, get into real estate, think long term. Don't let the market fluctuations, market is down this year, market is up this year, interest rates are high, don't let those things distract from you. Just look long term and stay focused. That's how Aaron has been able to do it. That's how I've been able to do it over the last 10 years. And I love what you're doing. Now, I really like the program. And for anyone listening, how can they get in touch with you? How can they learn more about this? Because I think this is a really, really neat program that investors or even aspiring homeowners would love to get into.
Yeah, it's like we have Brampton project 90 towns, and then we have Ajax coming 66 townhouses, and then we have Whitby 74 townhouses coming as well. So there's a lot of opportunities for individuals to get in contact with us and really come up with a game plan, and we can really guide them through the whole process and come experience the power of real estate. Like this is a really good opportunity for people in our community because we identify like you. We come from the same place. We come from the same struggles. There's the same road you gotta walk. I walk that road. I didn't go on a special road. It wasn't easy for me. I didn't come from money. This is me literally saving my summer student money back in 2009 and pursuing the dream of real estate and buying my first triplex for $200,000, then buying properties and selling properties and getting my real estate license and investing and taking risks, taking some losses, learning. Then I got into renovations. Then I got to building infill developments, and then just graduated, just one step at a time, chipping it away. But real estate's possible for everybody, man. It's like the best kept secret. That's not really a secret. It's just people have to want it for themselves and just dedicate themselves and tap into the resources that are available to get them going. One thing I always say out clear the air is, this is real estate is an investment only if you use it as an investment, right? So yes, people want to use it as a means of shelter and that's their desires, but it's okay to rent where you live or rent out what you own. So you can come into this project where you can use this and build a rental portfolio, and this is how you got your start, right? Maybe you don't want to live in Brampton, maybe you don't want to live in Ajax, but hey, it's a good opportunity for you to get access to financing in order for you to have an asset that you can then leverage out and rent out, right? So it's all about how you look at things, right? But the main thing is you got to reach and grab for things that are there to help you advance, not only for yourself, but for your family and your legacy and generations to come, right? So we as a people, we as a community, we have tendencies of always letting things just pass us by, because we always have the feeling that, you know, if it was meant to be, it's meant to, it was, if you don't get it, it wasn't meant to be. But that's not the right attitude. The information is out there for everybody to grab. The information is out there for everybody to capitalize on. You just have to build good enough habits to A, realize what an opportunity is, and B, capitalize and be resourceful and make things happen for yourself. Because, you know, life is getting harder. You know, just working a job and paying rent is not going to get you anywhere fast. You need to have assets working for you and growing for you. That the days that, you know, I always had this thing. I said to myself when I was working my job, I said, I'm preparing myself for the day that I no longer want to go to work. Because there's going to be a day where I'm going to go to work and I just
don't
I'm
have
over
it. Just be done with it.
But in the good times, when I am happy with this job and I'm happy to show up and come here, I'm going to make sure I put things in place so when that day comes, I can leave. And I remember when that day came, I walked into work and I said, I'm over this. And I walked away. I just walked off the job. And the reason I was able to do that, I had 10 properties. I had 55 doors, 10 properties, and I had $100,000 cash saved. And I just passed my real estate exam. So I was ready to go to the next step. And I worked at that job for about 5 to 6 years. But in those 5 to 6 years, I was leveraging my income, leveraging my credit, leveraging my real estate to buy more real estate. And then I remember I went to the bank and they're like, you're tapped out. You don't, your job doesn't help you anymore. You have to now go to alternative lending. And then when I realized my job didn't help me anymore, then I realized I didn't need the job anymore. The job couldn't get me anywhere, so I was like, I'm done. So I always have this thing where it's like, build your life in a way that you're preparing yourself for the day you want to make a change, right? Too many people want to make changes when they feel the change needs to be made, and then they get frustrated, burnt out. I'm always building my life for the next life. I know 10 years from now, I'm going to be a different person. I'm going to want different things. I have to identify what those things are. And I got to start working and putting those things in place. So when that day comes, I can pivot, right? Versus, oh, I hate my job, and then you're scrambling. It's more like, I love my job right now. This job is doing X, Y, Z for my life right now. But I know eventually I'm going to plateau and this feeling's not going to be here. So let me put things in place so when I no longer want to be here, I can transition and there's no resistance, right? And I think it's just a planner in me and the visionary in me, but that's how I tend to live my life. So that's even my real estate approach in investing in development. It's like, I want to be a developer. I want to buy land. I want to build homes. But I also see there's a need for my people. So let me put things in place for my people so I can help them on my journey as well, right? And now I'm building my development specifically for people in my community to come in and tap in and get the assistance they need to get into real estate. Why? Because I'm the owner. I control the assets and I care, right? Other developers, they don't have that need. They don't have that desire. They're straight capitalists, and nothing wrong with that. And that's what they are. But I'm in business to help as many people as I can along the way. Just who I am. And then, we're Caribbean people and African people. We're always taught to look back and pull back and help and this. We shared every single thing we've ever owned. Everything we owned, we've always shared it. So it's deep rooted in my blood, right? I never had my own room until I was like 25. Siblings always around you, family's always around you, so it's just who we are as a people. And I just want to continue that trait of just looking back and helping. Is it easy at times? No. Painful. Convincing people to do the right thing. But once you see them graduate and get that confidence and build themselves up, the satisfaction that I get knowing, okay, I saved another person. He's on his way. He can leave the nest, So that's my mission. That's my path. And I guess that's what I'm passionate about when it comes to real estate and what I'm doing, and just tying it all together.
I love two things you mentioned. You talked about, yeah, your job is great and job probably pays you well, but being forward thinking to the day when that job may not be there, or that job may not you may not even want to do it. What are you building for yourself that can allow you to walk away from that job at some point? I remember even for me, just in the last 2-3 years, a lot has changed personally in our lives that I decided I don't like the cold. I don't like the cold. I'm stuck in the house. I don't really like going out. So I'm like, why do I have to limit myself to remaining in Canada 24/7, 12 months of the year? And so I fortunately, I've surrounded myself with great people. I began to look at, okay, how can I do this and live in Canada half the 6 months of the year and live outside Canada 6 months of the year. But I've been fortunate enough that Aaron gave me a start 10 years ago when we first got into it. And from there, we've built something that allows me to be able to be in and out of the country as I see fit and still be able to provide for my family. So thinking long-term beyond the job, beyond just working a 9-to-5. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. It's just outside of that, what can you do if that job's no longer there?
Yeah, I tell people all the time, like, entrepreneurship business is not for everybody. It's not.
Absolutely.
But real estate and investing and saving, just look at it as you're building your own little greenhouse in your backyard, planting seeds, and you have your own ecosystem, and you harvest, and you're building, and you're growing for yourself. You don't need to do it for the world. You don't need to do it for business. You don't need to do it for any of that stuff. You're doing it for your family. You're doing it for your children. When they come up, they have things to pick off of. Like, okay, I want to go to college, university. I want to pursue this. Okay, the family assets there. Let's pick up that tree. Let's fund it. Let's move. You don't have to depend on grants or loans or these things. These are things, if you look, I always plan my life in decades, right? So this decade, what do I want to accomplish? What do I want to see? What am I going to sacrifice? What do I want to achieve? And I work in that decade. And then when you work long term, but then when you're building for your family, now you got to think decades for them too. So you're like, okay, I need to hold on to these assets for the next 30 years, 40 years, because you want to go 4 generations down, right? So it's not complicated thinking. It's just, we got to think beyond today, tomorrow, next year. You got to think long term, right? I'm surrounded by so many different people. I was around this Japanese guy the other day. He says, in our culture, we don't sell anything. He goes, I have 10 houses all paid off for, and I've owned them for the last 20 years. I'm like, okay, you're worth like $30 million. Like, it's that simple. Like, 10 houses paid off, had them for 20 years. 20 years seems long, but when you're in the moment, 20 years is very short, because you got to get there. You're going to get there eventually. Me and you are going to get to 20 years later. We're going to get there. So what are you going to do today to make sure when you get there, you can reap the benefits of that time? So it's about putting things in place, and it's very simple. It's as simple as buying a house every single year, maybe every other year, and then learning how to leverage your property, continue to buy more real estate. It doesn't have to get complicated. It doesn't have to get fancy. It just takes commitment. So we just got to stay committed on the path to create wealth for ourselves, family, and our generation. That's it. Keep it simple. I live a very simple life.
Honestly, this is great. I'm so glad for people like you. I love what you're doing, and we're gonna put Aaron's contact in the show notes. If you want to reach out to me, if you want to reach out to Aaron, and you're looking to get started but don't know how, or you just want to grow what you have right now, hit us up, and would love to help you. Aaron, thank you so much for taking time to come on the show today.
Thank you for your time, Sean. Really appreciate it. Anytime you need me, I'm here. I love what you're doing for the people. It's, and sharing your story, because believe it or not, people, they see the finished product, they see the polished product, and they don't understand, like, guys like us coming up, there's dark times where we're just trying to figure it out. Aaron, don't forget about me. Sean, don't forget about me. Help me. And but here we are 16, 17 years later, standing tall, and finally, showing and reaping the benefits of what we've done. And now we're able to now pull people up and say, listen, like, I went through what you went through.
I get it.
Here's my story. I get it. No judgment. Let's go. We'll help you get there too, right? And that's a beautiful thing, right? As a community, we have to be able to trust in each other more and understand that there are people like us who want to help and understand that along the way, there are going to be pitfalls and there are going to be struggles and there are going to be things that happen, but we have to stay together as a united front, right? I find when things happen in our community, we just want to throw up our hands and go ballistic. We just got to remain calm and understand that we got to trust the process and start to think in decades, right? 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And then that will help you, alleviate some anxiety of things aren't happening fast enough. We're on decade runs right now. All right. We're on decade runs. And once we start thinking like that as a community, we can drop our guard a little bit and pick up the shovel and start to work,
Let's get to work, Aaron. Let's get to work,
man.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right.
You've been listening to the True Wealth Podcast. This is all for today. Join us next time.
This is all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening to the True Wealth Podcast. Don't forget to rate, share, and subscribe to the True Wealth Podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at True Wealth Pod. We'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts, ideas, and questions with us on our social media platforms or email us at podcast@truewealthadvisors.ca. And who knows, your question might be the subject of a future episode.